Okay, there. So do you guys remember back to my non-spoiler full season review where I said there was one episode I didn't really like? Well, this one was it. There are certainly redeemable parts to this episode, and I will say up front that my dislikes have almost nothing to do with the books stuff. But I also think before getting into talking about this episode and giving what I liked and what I didn't, and then giving it a score, obviously, I should add some context of where I'm coming from in reviewing this episode. First, I think it's important to note that the Two Rivers storyline in The Shadow Rising, of which the events of this episode are based, is one of my favorite plot lines in the books. And I think it's the peak of Perrin's arc. He comes into his own with the Wolf Dream. He becomes a leader in the Two Rivers by acting like one and just doing what needs done. His severe nature fleshed itself out, inspiring others to act and follow him. And the final battle in the Two Rivers is the culmination of his leadership and the strength of the blood of Manetheren. And if they get the story right, Perrin leaves the season firmly established as the leader of the Two Rivers, has a unified people behind him, and has shown himself to be formidable in battle, somebody of integrity, and somebody who's an expert in the Wolf Dream. I say all of that to say, I wanted to love this episode really, really badly. I watched it multiple times wondering if I was being too hard on it. And you all very well may not agree with my takes, which is fine. I'm looking for someone to show me actually why my opinion's so off base, but I really struggled with this episode. But let's start for a moment with some of the things I did like from the episode, as it wasn't totally irredeemable and not a total loss. First, I'll say this about the scale of the fight. These types of battles are hard to pull off on television. Battles you see in movies are heavily CGI, they're very, very expensive to shoot, and we're not going to get helms deep on a TV show. So the level of scale that they were able to pull off here, I was actually impressed with, as well as the fight sequences. I've actually been to these sets, so I saw how much they built with practical sets, and I will say it was impressive. I have an entire video touring this set, which you can check out, but I'll say it's really cool seeing the places that you were at turned into a battlefield on television. I thought that was very, very cool. I also thought that there were some very well done fight scenes and some great choreography. The fight scenes were entertaining and they felt epic. It was really cool to see both the Aiel fight and Loyal as well. Loyal kicking some Trolloc ass with a hammer is something that I am all in for. And I will also add that I loved Senbui and I loved Days Conger. Although loving Days Conger is nothing new for me, I loved her in episode 1 of season 1. Senbui was just great to watch, especially with the comments about the Two Rivers longbows. He was the right kind of annoying. I loved Senbui. And seeing the longbows in action and Maxim being so impressed was also fun, as that's kind of a major thing about Two Rivers archers in the books. Again, I just thought that part was fun. I'm going to continue to say how much I loved Isabella Bocchieri as Fael. She is truly just outstanding. Her line delivery, her mannerisms, her ability to fight with knives is badass. She really fits Fael, the character from the books, and she's the leader behind the leader. She's truly outstanding, but that's actually part of one of my criticisms, which we're going to come back to. But overall, Fael has been nothing but great this season, and in this episode, she was a badass. I called her Black Widow in an earlier review, and I meant it. She kicks ass, and I was all in on it. Another thing I loved seeing was the Tinkers again. Specifically, Maria Doyle Kennedy as Isla. She was amazing in season 1, and her return as Isla in this episode was great. She says so much with just her facial reactions, and you can literally see her devotion to the Way of the Leaf, and it comes across just really, really real. You can also see her really, really impressed with Perrin in this episode. I thought the looks between them were really, really good. I wish she had a larger role in the show, simply because I love seeing her on the screen, so definitely could use some more Tinkers in my life. But let's shift to some of my criticisms of the episode and why I just don't think it hit the mark. Almost all of my criticisms for this episode, and really the Two Rivers arc in general, come down to one thing, and it's Perrin. And more specifically, it's that nothing that happens to Perrin seems to be earned this season. So many of the things that we're supposed to understand about Perrin's character development happen because we're told they happened. Perrin is a leader. We aren't shown that, we're just told that he is. Lord Goldeneyes. Well, why did they start calling him Lord? What did he do to earn that? The Wolfhead banner. It really hasn't even been established this season that Perrin has anything to do with wolves other than his eyes. The fortifications pop out of nowhere, but there was really never a decision to fortify the town. The Trollocs are attacking, but we don't see the effects of it all season. No burned farms, no dead villagers, no repercussions. I could go on. They wanted the payoff, but they didn't establish the emotional investment to make those things feel like satisfying payoffs. It truly just feels like we were missing scenes all season. Like they were forced to cut half of what they filmed and we're just left with major gaps. And it's entirely possible that that's exactly what happened, although it's extremely unfortunate. They have the challenge of taking a really long book with a couple really fleshed out great plot lines in The Shadow Rising and condensing it into one season. You could argue that the Maxim and Alana stuff took away from the setup for the battle and some of the other characters, but I don't think there was actually enough of them to really make that argument. And Alana was a big part of the Two Rivers storyline anyway. The plotline in season 3 suffers from the tell but not show problem. So what would I have done differently other than add 3 more episodes? Well, for one, I think they needed an establishing shot of a farmhouse being raided by Trollocs, people being killed, and the White Cloaks helping in one of the cold opens. It would have set the tone, it would have set the stakes, and it would have helped make the final battle satisfying. Additionally, I think they needed Padan Fain earlier in establishing his motivations to scour the Two Rivers, to bring them back so that he could kill them. If we knew what he was trying to do, it would set the stakes of the failure even higher. And I think you could add to that. Maybe that cold open scene, Padan Fain is there with Trollocs killing Perrin's family, and we find that out at the end. How powerful would that have been? Then I also think we needed to see Perrin acting with urgency. I actually think that we should have seen his family killed, as I just mentioned, but we also needed to see the initial pushback on rescuing the Cothans from the others in the village, telling him he's crazy for wanting to do it, and him deciding, I'm going to go anyway because it's the right thing to do. I would have liked to have seen him stop at a farm and tell them to get back to the village to protect themselves and tell others, just like in the books. It would have set up the grouping of the people in the village better. It would have set up the fortifications. It would have set up all of it. I think they actually had time for those things with a bit of rearranging. Lastly, the thing I want to mention here is Loyal's death. I hate this for multiple reasons. For one, I love Loyal, and I like what he brings later on in the story, so I hate to see him go. But more importantly, I don't think it had the emotional impact that it should. Again, it wasn't set up well enough. We haven't had enough time with Loyal to make his death hugely impactful. It was just done to have a death, and I don't like that kind of writing. The way he destroyed the Waygate really didn't make sense. They just wanted to sacrifice him. They wanted a death, and this is how they got it. Anyways, this is my least favorite episode of the season. Potentially my least favorite episode of the entire series. It's up there with episode 8 of season 1. The good news, though, is I think episode 8 of this season is much better. That's all I'll say about that. But this episode was just rough for me. I'm probably being harder on it than others might be, and that's because I think they could have done this plotline so much better, and this is one of the plots I was the most looking forward to. So for a score, I'm going to give episode 9 a 6 out of 10. With the only saving grace to me is that it was entertaining to watch. So much that could have been. But what do you think? Am I missing something? Am I off base? Let me know in the comments of the video. As always, give the video a like if you liked it and subscribe to the channel to get more Wheel of Time content. It's what I make here on the channel. Thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel. You're very much appreciated. If you'd like to become a patron, check out the link in the description of the video. Lastly, if you liked this video, check out some of these other videos as well that I think you'll love. Thanks for watching, and until next time, peace out.